thank you. Welcome, and I appreciate you having me. We will have a drawing at the end, giveaway book. I happen to have been the technical reviewer on this one, so O'Reilly was kind enough to give me a couple dozen copies that I can pass around at different places. So we've got a couple to give away today, so there you go. This is kind of a fun presentation. The remote's not working. There you go. Go to your backup systems. But seriously, as you kick off a talk, it is about first impressions. What is the strongest way that you could open? Any ideas?
Give something away.
There you go. Good job. How about in introducing yourself? Hello, my name is work. What would be stronger? Go ahead. That would work. But as your first sentence, catching attention, what is the strongest phrase you could possibly use?
There's a bomb under your chair.
Four syllables. I'm Duke. It's that simple. The phrase I'm actually is a much stronger phrase to use instead of saying my name is. There's a lot of noise that goes with my name is. It puts the brain into much more thought-provoking space. I'm has impact. It's a much stronger statement. It shows that you've got strength of character. It shows that you've got enough confidence in yourself to be in front of the group. So start strong, say strong, introduce yourself with, hi, I'm Duke. It's that simple. Takeaway number one, so tuck it away. It also has no noise in the background. First of all, I'm going to just lay a little bit of housekeeping for you, and that's to say that I appreciate questions at any time. So if there's anything that, say I'm not talking too fast, but you're not listening fast enough and you miss something, go ahead and jump in there and say, I need something repeated or something elaborated on. So I do welcome the questions at any time. And we're just going to keep firing our way through all this. So I'm not saving a lot of time for questions at the end. Tip number 2 is kind of an unusual one. You're going to find out that I'm not up here laying a lot of credibility. Yes, sir?
Are you going to be posting your slides?
I will. Thank you for that one. Actually, didn't make it on my housekeeping one. Very good. Number 2, skip the bio. You're not hearing me tell you my 5-minute self-introduction, right? There's a reason. This conference, the reason why you were here, the reason why you've got me standing in front of you, it's about you. You want to hear the things that are of interest to you. If you're coming into a company to pitch your product, the first slide on your PowerPoint show should not be about your company and your big logo. It's their big logo. It's about them. And you start the conversation with understanding their problem. The fastest way that you can tune people out is to start giving your background something they have no relevance for quite yet. And so leading with your bio doesn't work. There's reasons for that. There's some noise factors, some built-in human filters that we're going to talk about in a few moments. But it really is about understanding and how to get past those filters. There is a point for your bio. It will happen in the presentation, just not at the beginning. Keep the beginning, capture the interest by talking about what's of interest to your audience. And then what you lead into after that is what's called setting the stage. In the adult learning world, there's a technique called the 6-pack. There's 6 different phases of how to, in essence, teach adults and then validate that they've learned something. Well, you're not being a university professor, and you don't need to go through all those stages of a 6-pack, but you are trying to impart new knowledge. It's one of the reasons why you're up in front of people. To do that effectively and to get the filters turned off in the brain, you need to set a stage. You need to create the need. You need to create a situation where someone now empathizes with the issue that you've got, that there's a reason to build a connection. So it might very well be, just as suggested, start with a story. Create a situation that they can relate to that helps people get together. It creates a teachable moment that lets you get past this kind of a situation where people have got their eyes down and they're working on their devices and they feel guilty for just a moment because their eyes were down when I mentioned that. But at least they weren't completely all thumbs. Aristotle described what it takes to gain perception in 3 words, conveniently Latin. Don't translate very easily, but I'll put it to you this way. I translate them this way, that ethos is about character. So part of getting your message across is that you need to build yourself as a credible person. It's actually one of the last steps, though. So at some point, you do need to do that bio. You need to build your credibility. You need to have people relate to you in a way that shows you're a professional in the field and that you've got advice worth listening to. Logos is also frequently used heavily, and that's the logic of the presentation. It's the facts and figures. But I have to tell you, how many times have you sat in a classroom and fallen asleep listening to facts and figures? It all glosses over you until something magical happens first. And that's the pathos part. And that's the creating empathy. It is creating the emotional connection. The connection comes first. I can't say that any stronger. The connection comes first, and you get it emotionally. You got to get people on the same wavelength. They joke about standing up in front of a group and imagine everyone is naked or something like that to calm your nerves and get things settled down. That's not going to help you build a connection. What's going to help you build a connection is actually the advanced work you do. Understanding who you're talking to and getting time to know them actually before you start talking. You might have noticed that as you came in the room, I asked a few of you about what you did and why you were here. And it's part of building that connection. So know your audience. Take the time to actually arrive early. Get as much time as you can to introduce yourselves. Try to solve the technology issue before you actually get in here so that you can use the full 15-minute break to walk around and get to know people and find out why they came. Many times you'll hear an answer that will help you tune your talk to be even more relevant to them or to draw out what it is that they might be seeking and emphasize that in your talk. Now it's more about them. You're tailoring your communication to them, and it now becomes more relevant to them. So ask them for what they're looking for in your talk, and then use it, apply it. One of the frequent mistakes I do see a lot is that people do come in to pitch companies, and they do start with that self-resume presentation. They start with all their been there, done that, and why they should be hired, and all that background. And it really falls on deaf ears until you've started talking about the solution that you're trying to propose. You've all of a sudden got everyone collaborating on what that solution should look like, and now they're going to that test. The test at the logos part to say, okay, does this person actually have valid information that I can validate and know that they are trustworthy and delivering quality information? And do they have the strength of character that they are the team or the person I can trust? And so that's the time to throw the bio in. That's the time to talk about your been there, done that. It's about halfway through your presentation. So why are we the team to choose comes far after let's figure out what the problem is and how we can solve it. Let's look back at basics. We've all kind of heard them growing up, and we've all seen speakers that know the basics. Some might say it's have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Nope, I don't agree with that. Most of the people I've talked to don't agree with it either. Telling them what you're going to tell them, then telling them, and then telling them what you told them may work great in high school. It doesn't work in an adult audience that's in a setting like this. You want to get to the subject, and you want to get the connection built, and then build from there. So it's taking the time to do that. But a couple of the basics that you need to be aware of, and sorry if this is dreadful repetition, but it's important that everyone is aware of it. One is, don't read. How many times have you seen somebody reading their script from a podium? Especially keynote speakers. My gosh, people have reached the stage of keynotes. They're on the professional speaking circuit, or they're being pulled in front of an audience of 800 people and supposed to be at their game, and they still have to read. Something's wrong. They're not being the expert in their field. They don't know their subject well enough, or they haven't rehearsed well enough. So there's a number of things all wrapped in there that we'll kind of go through. One of the things I find with that is it's not being respectful of the audience. Let's see, in this room we've got roughly 40 people, maybe a few more. Each of you are devoting 45 minutes in here. So collectively, we've got 30 man-hours of your time being focused on me. How much of my time should I have invested becoming prepared for you?
At least that much.
Exactly, at least that much. Do the math, know your audience, and figure out how much time to invest, and be fair to them by doing that amount of preparation. Can't tell you how many times I walk into a conference like this, and I'm seeing speakers that put their slides together the night before, kind of did a rough run through the day of, maybe not. They blow their timing, they miss the logical buildup of their topics, and the show doesn't flow. They're not being that expert presenter that can then respond to the audience. So part of what's happening in this room and part of the dynamics is that I can tune in to somebody who's down playing with his thumbs and be aware of that because I'm not worrying about the next thing I have to say. I know my talk well enough that I can give it without having to refer too often to my speaker's notes that are in front of me. I've got them. They're there. They're my crutch. They're available, so I've got a 3-word phrase to start off every sentence that I'm going to present to you to remind me how to get back on track when I go off and get derailed or a question comes in that takes me to a different direction. So I know how to get back on track, but when it comes to the core of your talk, this should be just stuff you know. That if you're speaking out of an area that you are not a subject matter expert, you shouldn't be on that stage. You're not being genuine. You're not being genuine to your audience of being the expert that they're expecting. So part of that is that match to make sure that you know your audience. Finally, rehearsals help you nail your timing. So that's rather important. So short talks, and I'm talking under 5 minutes. If you're not preparing for at least a couple of hours for that, something's wrong. And I'm talking at the scripting stage. Shorter is actually harder. I spend more time on a short talk than I will on a long one. Long ones, I've got the excuse that I can look at my notes. I can get away with, some of the things that disengage me for a little while in the middle of the talk. But if we're talking 5 minutes, 7 minutes, classic TED Talk, something like that, the people that do TED Talks, they rehearse for 6 months. That's what it takes to get on the stage at TED. It's a serious undertaking. Part of learning to give talks like this is rehearsing. And I mean rehearsing in a space. It doesn't count to be in your shower talking to yourself. First of all, you're not getting any questions. Second, you're not getting any engagement with your audience. You don't have that sense of feedback that tells you your timing is working or that there's a quizzical look on somebody's face, something's not passing through. Well, so take the time to get an audience and go do that. Sure, what's up?
Additionally, when you're in the shower, you hear your voice echo, so you can practice your reflection.
There you go. Absolutely true. But so for those kinds of talks, I actually enjoy going to a place like an impact hub. That there's people sitting around there. They're all trying to improve their business and do things like that. They're all into collaboration. There's people there who won't mind sitting out for 45 minutes hearing somebody else give a technical presentation and give feedback on it. It's part of building connections and networking to start building a network that will actually bounce off of each other. Go ahead.
You use the term impact hub. Is that a specific place or a type of place?
It is a type of place and a specific place. So it's a network of incubators around the country, around the world actually. And there is a new one here in Salt Lake City. They've actually been in operation for a year, but they had a ribbon cutting on their new building in downtown Salt Lake just a week ago. It is a 4-story building on State Street at about 200 South that they did their own renovation on. And it's a classic old beautiful brick building that with 2-story open atrium in the center. And they've built rentable offices around the periphery. They've got co-working spaces in the middle. Really, really nice facilities. Plenty of conference rooms. And it's $35 a month for membership. It's nothing. Impact Hub.
Oh, Impact Hub's the name.
Yes. So
A good resource for doing your warm-up is local Linux users groups.
Sure.
And or Toastmasters.
Absolutely. Both very good. And part of my credibility is I am a distinguished Toastmaster, so there you go. So there are actually Toastmasters groups around in a number of places, and I think there's a total of 6 or 7 that are in the Salt Lake Valley. So don't hesitate to connect up with one. They will help you focus on the short format. So the ideal Toastmaster length of talk is 7 minutes. They also do much shorter versions, 30 seconds, 1 minute, and 3 minutes. But the primary talk that you will rehearse there is a 7-minute talk. It's a great way to get used to being on your feet and being in front of an audience and getting that dynamic going. Part of the rehearsal, why you do it, is to shift your focus as a speaker. I can switch from being introspective, worrying about what I'm going to be saying next, to extrospective, being more connected with each of you and understanding what you're looking for in this talk and making sure I'm connecting with you and I'm meeting your needs. And it also lets you take the questions better, that they're not an interruption to the flow. So part of that, in the basics of getting started out was exactly, will you take questions and will you post the slides? So the slides will be up. And it's also just establishing your credibility and your presence. Next up is owning the room. I have cables that are hanging down under me, so I'm not really making good use of this stage. I could be doing a whole lot better. And to give you a little bit of an emphasis of that, owning the room is 2 different things. One is using movement. There's something you can do by taking a walk across the stage, finding a new anchor point, and turning and presenting that is like white space on a website or in graphic arts. It lets you find a different position and then represent with a different line of sight and make a connection with a new group of people. It's hard to do if you don't know your talk because you get away from your podium. So if you need to be anchored to your podium and you need that crutch, you can't do this very much. But once you get that confidence and you know your talk well enough that you really can walk around the room and have an impact that gets people connected at all different levels, then all of a sudden you truly do own the room. Everyone will follow you. They are much more engaged. You can even walk over and sit down next to the guy who's still got his thumbs going and really ruin his day. The university professors did that to you, didn't they? You know what's going on, right? So there's nothing wrong with using some of those theatrics as long as it's not too theatrical. So just in a fair process. Let's just do something fun. I would like it if, around the room for just a moment, if you would raise your hand like this, if you feel like I have made eye contact with you as I am giving the talk. So if I've made eye contact with you and you feel that you had eye contact for at least 2 seconds, put your hand up and then hold it up. I'm talking about now. So these people over here, I'm sure, don't have eye contact. So I'm talking about right now, and I'm going to keep moving around until people feel like I've had eye contact with them and raise their hand and really know that I am talking to them. And as I go on with this, you're going to be surprised. So keep your hands up once they are up at how well I can pull people together. I've had 3 pausing positions so far, and now look around at how many hands are up in this room. I only looked 3 places. It's very hard to tell where someone's eyes are truly focused if their eyes are not moving. It is a phenomenal technique. So I actually focused on an empty chair back there, an empty chair there, and an empty chair there. The advantages of an empty chair, they don't distract you. If you're on a real person with their thumbs going, they can really distract you. But that shows the trick of actually establishing eye contact, and it's necessary to keep your entire room engaged. It's a very solid technique, and that it really takes a 2-second pause or longer for people to feel like they're being talked to, that they feel drawn in. And all of a sudden, when they feel that they're that drawn in, that they're that connected to you, they're not going to lose their eyes to their eye device, because they'll be embarrassed when you come back and you're not connected. So it helps keep everyone drawn into your talk. So eye contact, we've always heard about it, but that's actually a real demonstration of how you can work to actually keep the eyes in the right place. It's a bad joke, but it leads into the appropriate use of humor. Part of giving a presentation to a professional audience is being genuine and being authentic. And I have to tell you, I've watched presentations, and in fact, in my early speaking days, I've made the same mistake. You feel like you got to lead with a joke or lead with humor because someone told you that's what you should do. But unless you can, tell joke number 43, not many people knew that one, okay, know all the jokes and can tell them well, and you are a good humorist at that, unless you are one of these people that can properly take the stage and deliver humor well, it's not you. It's not genuine. And it will disconnect you from your audience. As much as it seems cute and it seems fun and it gives a little bit of lightheartedness to your talk, some humor is appropriate, but don't try to be the stand-up comic. It doesn't work. People didn't come here to be entertained. They came to be educated. And if you go off trying to entertain, you are misdelivering on what they came for and what they expected. You're starting to challenge your ability to be a good presenter. I see people use magic. In fact, early on, I had a nice flare fire that would fit in the palm of my hand, and at some point in the talk, I'd fire it off and it'd shoot a flare across the room. Wakes everybody up. It's great fun. And then all of a sudden, people will be watching and trying to pay attention for when I'm going to pull the next trick, and be that magician that's got something else in there, and they're no longer paying attention to the message. So don't do it. It just doesn't work. It will take all the attention away from what you're about and turn you into one of these. You will become the Bozo. Your credibility will be lost on the subject you're trying to present. So it's a reason to be very genuine about what you're about. A little humor is fun. But know your goal. What is the one thing that you are presenting about? Why are you there? Why is your audience there? And are those in alignment? Everything else is a distraction. Everything else is noise. So you want to reduce the signal, improve the signal to noise ratio. So, to use audio terms, I think is quite strong in this context. So have a singular purpose, structure your talk to deliver on that purpose and to stay focused on it. As tempting as it is to do a sidebar discussion or tell a side story, make sure it's relevant. If it doesn't help make your point and deliver the connection that you're trying to make, it doesn't belong in your talk. You are much better off to hit 3 subjects extremely well and finish early than to cram too many things into a talk like one with 12 topics like this one. So, Curly was a lot of fun, and I miss City Slickers. But part of knowing the goal is also understanding how to connect with people. There's a great book, Start With Why, by Simon Sinek, and he also has a TED Talk out there. So if you really want to get to know this very quickly, Google Simon Sinek TED, and you'll get his Start With Why talk, and I believe it's about 12 minutes. It will summarize very quickly this layer of barriers that you need to pass through. You're, in essence, in order to build a connection that drops the filters, you start with why. You start with the emotional connection. You start with a shared journey. But when people understand why you are working in the open source world, that you're out there, who knows, saving the world one website at a time, making the world safe for publishing, or bringing out web services to the poor and needy users of iDevices because they don't have Android. They connect with you. You tell your journey. You tell your story. Follow the rules of good storytelling. For those of you who were in my talk earlier today on lessons from Star Trek, one of the classic scenes that was played there was the scene from the episode called Inner Light. And if you have a chance, go rewatch that Next Generation episode called The Inner Light, where for an hour long, it is the story of an entire culture told through the perspective that was planted into Picard's brain. A very heartwarming story, but now watch it again from the point of view of storytelling, that if you were to script that, what was it about? And it built an emotional connection first. It's called The Inner Light. Mm-hmm. Pardon me? I'm going to guess it was second to last. Not certain. So it helps you in building that connection. It breaks down the barriers. So the principles of storytelling are that you have a protagonist. Typically there's an antagonist along the way. You've got conflict and you've got resolution. People start to connect with you and they start to empathize with you when they feel the struggle, when they feel the conflict you went through to get your business off the ground or to get the product going. Now they're riding along with you on the charge to get the product out there. And of course they want to be a customer too because they want to help you move forward in your challenge, in your quest. They're emotionally driven to buy in and assist you because they want to be part of the team. They want to be part of the good guys, whether or not the product is good or it sucks. You can pre-sell a product pretty darn good just by the journey, just by telling the story. And then it's going to be the logical filters that will knock you out. Well, gee, it doesn't even boot up. That might stop the sale at the later stages. But early on, it's the emotional connection that makes the sale. So understand how people work. And it starts with your why, the dreams and goals that you're pursuing, what it is that emotionally draws you in so that they have a connection with you. Then get to the how of how you do it. And that's how they now start to understand and empathize with the work that's going on. And they start to see the value that's been invested in it. They see the man hours, the workflow, the attention to detail, the methodologies that you're using to accomplish your service or your product. And then finally they get to the what, and it's almost an afterthought. Oh, this is the product and this is what it costs? Sure, sign me up. It's that kind of an approach. And so a few moments with Sinek will help you get along there really well. Next, cognitive friction. There are a lot of things that create noise. And we talked about improving the signal-to-noise ratio. The best way to improve it is to remove noise. It's the easiest thing to do. What is noise? Noise can be the distraction outside the room where closing the doors helps. You are the owner of your space. Make sure that whatever is a distractor in the space is reduced. The noise might be, some of our rooms have a light turned on right here in front of the screen, and the wash on the screen makes the slides hard to see. Or that the lighting in the room, there's a glare in one side. So if you can fix the shades, you can control the lighting, you can make the temperature comfortable, create an environment that eliminates the obstacles, that makes it easy to work with. Among those is learning how to present in a way that the back of the room can hear you. Are you having any trouble hearing me back there? Were you before? No. Good. Learning to project is one of those challenges that you learn in kind of a theatrical environment. It's another reason to practice. So when you're practicing to yourself or to your people around the dinner table, you're not practicing how to project. Projecting is a skill to learn. It's difficult. It takes a lot of practice because if you're new to it, if you're not used to throwing your room to the back of the room, your voice to the back of the room, your voice sounds strained. I hear my voice sounding strained as it is. Ideally, you use the tools. And the tool of a good speaker is a microphone. If you've got the choice, use one. A lot of people will say, oh, I don't even want the microphone when there's one available. Romper room, no. Use a mic if it's available to you. Even I can project to the back of the room, and I like the freedom of walking around and not having to be anchored at a microphone. But given the choice, I would be much rather be at a microphone where I can speak to you at a voice that I would be using in the bedroom. Do you talk to your spouse, hey honey, you want to have a good time tonight? When they're right next to you? It puts strain in your voice. And it changes the way that you are connecting with people. It creates harshness and tension in the relationship. You would much rather be speaking at a normal, comfortable voice. For what is public speaking? It is a sequence of one-to-one conversations, massively scaled parallel. If you think about it as how to do a one-to-one conversation, and the way that you want to talk to an individual person, that is what is going to build the personal connection, and then that's what you're scaling up from. So you like to be talking at a more personal level of tone and voice. So use a microphone when you've got it. Something to understand about microphones. Going to get geeky for just a moment. Microphones have audio patterns, and you should be aware of this as you are either buying a microphone if you choose to be doing a fair amount of speaking and you're going to invest in one, or to know this when you are presented one and you need to know how to use it. There is such thing as being on and off axis with a microphone. So microphones, typically the ones you find on a stage, are called cardioid, which means that they have a zone of sensitivity that's focused right to the front of the microphone, and they don't pick up the noise from the audience side at the bottom. So those microphones are, assume this is a microphone. They're designed to be picked up straight coming out the axis of the microphone. How many times do you see a speaker walking around looking like this? It's time to channel your inner rock star and get to know a guy like this who's going to be a sound engineer who will help you tune your voice and how to use it. But every rock star I know knows how to hold a microphone so it is aimed straight at the source, that the sweet spot of the microphone is aimed at the voice. You can rotate downward, that's fine, but still channeling your inner rock star. I mean, you're going to be a much better presenter if you can get used to walking around holding a microphone that's in your sweet spot. We got a rock star, I can tell. Or at least a singer, right? Excellent. But even public speakers, you learn to hold your microphone and it becomes second nature. You figure out the optimum distance to have it away so that it's not picking up your S's and your P's too much. It's down a little bit away, but it's at this precise distance that you can always hold. And as you rotate around the audience and you turn and talk, it's still there and it's always present in the just right spot. Works great if you don't have to manipulate things. You can have a clicker in your other hand, but other than that, you're able to walk around with a mic. If you have to use the mic stand that's on the stage, then realize how the mic works when it's in the mic stand. It's there and it's not moving. So when you want to talk to the people over there, you don't turn your head, you rotate your body around the microphone. The microphone becomes your axis of rotation so that you're always talking straight to the ball of the microphone. So just position. Now ideal, and what I own when I am out presenting on the big stage, is one of these. The lavalier mics that are down on your chest, if you're going to wear one, make sure it is centered. Some people put it on one collar as opposed to another. Well, it's great. Imagine what this tape is going to sound like if I wore it here, and that half the time that I'm talking to this side of the audience, the audio is clear up here, and the half the time that I'm talking to this side of the audience, the audio is clear down here because it's not close. So wear it centered. The head ones are ideal because the distance is constant. They always get set once, and you never forget it. So if you do talking, these are under $100 for high quality ones. They're worth investing in. And just own one and bring it with you, and it plugs into any mic setup. So they work really well. What to do when you have a microphone? Do not ever say, test, can you hear me? What do you start with? Hi, I'm Duke. Get your audio set well in advance. Shut the darn thing off. Do what you need to do, go meet people and so forth, but have all your audio presets with that nice sound engineer back there, preset locked in, ready to go. So when you click that button, you're on, you're ready to go, you don't test. You start with impact. Create that strong first impression. Tools of the trade. First of all, who's the show about? It's about the audience. Who are they here to hear or see?
Speaker.
The speaker. They're not here. If they wanted to have a presentation given by a computer, they would have gone online and watched a computer presentation, or they would have watched a video. They came to hear you and to hear the dynamics of your talk, your subject matter, adapted to their needs. So first and foremost, the presentation is about you. You might have noticed, even though I used PowerPoint in this show, half my slides were blank. For one very good reason. I didn't want your eyes there, I wanted them here. I'm the subject of this show. I'm the person who's presenting to you. The subject matter that you're absorbing is coming from me. This is a distractor. So you minimize it. It should emphasize points. It should illustrate hard to describe concepts. But you're choosing between two different methods of learning when you're choosing this. There are three methods of learning that people go through. So people learn tactily, they learn visually, and they learn auditorially. So obviously, a presentation environment, you're presenting mostly audio, and people are there to hear and absorb through their ears. If at the same time they're also visually absorbing, the two areas of the brain are fighting for which message has dominance. They are in tension with each other. So the visual part only helps if it's supplementing what's being said or it shows it. And I know good presenters that will put up a good slide and they'll shut up while people read the slide. Never read the slide for them. If you can read the slide for them, you don't need the slide. Get rid of it. So let's quickly go through the tools. PowerPoint, Keynote, you all know. How many people know Reveal? Seen it a couple times this week? This is a JavaScript program that in essence takes an HTML content and puts it on the screen. The nice thing about Reveal is it gives you not only left, right, or forward, backwards movement through your show, it will give you vertical depth on any particular slide so that you can have backup slides or backup content for any particular slide in a horizontal time strip. So it's linear with exceptions so that you can go drop down to more detail and more detail. It is wonderful for preparing answers to specific questions. So if nobody has a question on a particular topic on a slide, you keep moving. But if someone has a question, you're prepared with backup slides right there one click away by arrowing down to give them more information on that specific subject that they're interested in, because it is about them. So that's an advantage of Reveal. Very easy to set up. It is merely a skeleton web page and HTML content that's been structured out. And so go to the Reveal.js site, Google it, and it'll show you how to set that up. Next one that's like that is Prezi. How many people have seen a Prezi? Most of you. So Prezi is a truly nonlinear presentation format. It is this virtually an infinite canvas with a bunch of different images or text on it that you can then drill into and go to the third dimension. And so it's a nice visual spacing of things so that you can actually move in and move out, zoom in and zoom out, kind of a Google Earth effect where you travel in and go in great depth on subjects. As a presentation tool, I'm not a big fan of Prezi. If I'm giving a talk like this, I find the animation and all the prettiness of it and some of its structural stuff to be more noise than content. People get too caught up into how it's working instead of what it's saying. So if I've got a more linear talk like this one where I'm going to be motoring through a dozen concepts, as sucky as PowerPoint is, it does linear really well. So that's the choice I will use. Prezi is ideal when you're on a panel and you've got the ability to also project to show answers, because Prezi is this unlimited repository of information that you can drill down into. So if someone's got a question about, say it's organized by areas of a website, the contact us area of the website versus the blog area, and you're starting to organize how you're organizing the teams and the content that's going to go into that, who's working on what project and the status. You've got this infinitely drillable panels going down where you can zoom into greater and greater depth. So as someone raises a question, you can navigate to exactly the topic you want. And then also it helps you with doing an audio-only online presentation where you are scripting how the Prezi travels but then allows the user to take control and go follow more information before they resume the scripted show. So it's worth looking into if you want to play in that area. It is another interface to learn. It's a little bit complicated to learn. It's extremely powerful, very highly used in the academic worlds now. So it's fun to have, but it has limited role. I would not use it in a mainline talk, and I certainly would never use it in a keynote. It's just the wrong tool for the job. Paper handouts. I live in Park City. We go green. Just say no. Every now and then you need to do it if you're referring to technical stuff that won't go on the screen well. The table is too busy. You want people to see detailed information, and it's more in a pitch environment where you're trying to go into specific stuff. That's a reason to have a handout like that. So there's something to look at. Otherwise, if people have the handout or the slides are posted in advance of the show, they flip through. They've read ahead. They've looked through the entire show. They know what you're about to talk about. They zone out. So you've lost half your audience if you give your slides in advance. So yes, the slides will be online, but they won't be online until after the show's over. So for that very reason. So that's it for tools. Let's talk a little bit about maintaining the connection with the audience. First of all, one of the things that we did early on was show of hands. How many people had been involved in giving presentations, say 4 or 6 times? And we had people interacting, right? A great way to pull people back into your show once you see the eyes have gone down is to pose a question. So how many people think they're going to use reveal within the next year? Show of thumbs, up or down. Let's thumbs, everyone. I want thumbs up everywhere. Show me some thumbs. Come on, guys. I don't see all the thumbs up. All right. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Good mix. Great interactive way to get everyone reconnected and to make sure they're paying attention again. Another great interactive way of getting people back involved is to start asking questions. You get people on the spot, especially if they've got their head down and their thumbs are going again. Go ahead.
So, when you're posing a question, I saw you had your thumb in the middle. Would you as a presenter, go one way or the other, and then?
Oh, I'll vote too, but I'll usually do it at the end.
Question, you're like, okay, anybody? So you have your hand raised, so they raise their hand, and then
There's, yes. You're actually tipping on one of the psychological issues about making decisions in the open source world, which is you don't want to necessarily have public votes because the first few people that vote set the trend that everyone else feels uncomfortable going against. And so private voting in the open source world, if you have to go to a vote, is important. If whenever possible in decision making in open source, you want to be in consensus driven decision making whenever you can afford to do so. But that's an aside. As part of getting the interaction you're seeking, yes, it helps to demonstrate the action you want to see. So it's in that case, thumb up, thumb down, everyone vote, show me what you want, or raise your hands if you're into. So you demonstrate the action you're looking for, so that they visually as well as auditorially get connected. Yeah, you can ask questions that are kind of leading and suggestive of what you want. For example, one of the questions that's out there, it's something in research that says that we've been going for 45 minutes, and in there's been 2 20-minute cycles. So according to the research, what is it that everyone thinks about for every 20 seconds when you're involved in a presentation or a classroom? Well, no one jumped up there with the answer, but that's all right. I don't know if that research is true, but it is using the tools of interaction to help get those get the involvement back in, to get people re-engaged to what you're talking about. There's a number of other interactions that I've seen used. One is, especially if you're in a longer session, you're going for an hour or more, a great way to get everyone up and stretching and doing something is alignment on a line. So, for example, I will say that this wall represents just got started, the back wall represents 20 years, Everyone line yourself up in a line based on the number of years you've been contributing to open source software. Gets the group up for a minute. They have to talk to each other to figure out where they're at. Oh, you're a year and 3 months. I'm a year and 5 months. I go behind you. Or, organized by birthday or organized by something else. That kind of an interaction is a nice distraction and break to get everyone up and moving around. Works great in an unconference setting to set a discussion bar. In the Joomla project, it was a discussion starter for the whole discussion about switching our licensing to GPL and whether or not we should have free or commercial extensions available. And it was a discussion about, okay, as both a producer and a consumer of software, do you feel you should pay for software? And people lined up on the strata for where they felt they were on that spectrum. And then you started a discussion of, okay, convince each other. And you're at this end, why should these people move towards you? And started the whole discussion going of where you belonged on that spectrum. So a great way to actually solve a very polarized community and pull things together. I'll pull one off in here just as a demonstration. So just for the fun of it, stand up if you came here from out of state. All right, thank you for coming in, making the trip. Stay up. I want everyone to stay up. Let's have people stand up if you came here from outside the Salt Lake and Utah counties. Outside of there? Okay, how many people came from Salt Lake County? Excellent. How many people live outside of Provo? And for those who are, and for those who are still sitting down, thank you for hosting us. It's like, come up with a mechanism. It doesn't matter what it is. It helps people get involved. Gamification of your talk also works, and it doesn't hurt to put up something on the screen and go, okay, top 6 answers are on the board, survey says, and pose a question to the group. Like, why is it that you're choosing to speak at a conference like Openwest? Anyone have any ideas? Someone want to ring in? Go ahead. What's your reason? Because you were asked to. Good. That would be number 5. Next. Yep.
You've been involved with open source and you feel you can share this.
You've got something to share. You have knowledge to share. Very good. So you could put all these answers up on the board and ding and clang and X them out and play it out just to make it that much more fun. I am sorry that we don't have audio for this to come through. The connection didn't work. But there is a cute clip from Boston Legal that we're going to skip past where good old Captain Kirk, sorry this was in connection with the earlier talk about Star Trek, but we talk, Captain Kirk's up there on the deck with his colleague, and he's talking about what it takes to survive in court, and it's similar to talks, and it's have a rabbit to pull out of your hat. Every now and then you need to have something that you can pull out, bring out to kind of shock the audience back into playing along with you and pull something in. So it never hurts to have something different. Sure, go ahead. Yeah, you got me. But when desperate, rules aren't meant to be broken. No. And finally, end with an ending. And what I mean by that is even the presentation tools, PowerPoint, Keynote, whatever, will let you hit the end button and jump to the last slide of your show. And then you can walk backwards using the up arrow to go to second to last slide, third to last slide. So as you take a pause to take questions, don't end on a downer. Don't end on whatever lousy question just got asked, which I didn't mean to preset the questions with that one. But, but the point is, the questions will not be to the core of your talk. It will not re-emphasize your key points. It will not leave that strong, lasting impression that you want. You want to go out on a high. You want to go out on a bang. So save something for the end, like pulling a rabbit out of your hat, that you can play. In the Star Trek show, the last scene that we pulled out after we're entirely done was playing the old EDS commercial about herding wild cats. And boy, if that doesn't fit the world of open source leadership, I don't know what does. Thank you. I've gone 5 minutes over, so we need to call it, and appreciate your time and attention, and hope you enjoyed it.